started, I wanted to welcome everyone today to Stratum's Insight series. And today we are going to talk about our latest release, version 7.6, which is hot off the presses, brand new version. So we're going to talk about some of the features that the new version provides. And so as you can see, a lot of data import enhancements. So now you have not only the ability to keep importing from Excel files, but now you have options of importing from text files, CSVs, from cloud imports, APIs, Azure Data Factory. There's a new concept called import templates to make your importing jobs faster and easier and more efficient. So we're going to talk about all of that and much more. As you can see, a lot of admin window changes, and also a tabular database utility that's available as well. So a lot of stuff, mostly to do with the data import, as you can see. So what is it and how do we use it? So the data import feature, as you can see, it's been enhanced. Now we can import jobs. As you can see, when we now try to import data, it's going to give us some options basically on where that data exists, if it's a local file or if it's somewhere up on the cloud in a Azure blob container or a file share. Is it from a SQL Server database? And so, yes, so now you can actually import data from a database table as well. So quite robust in terms of all the different options now that you have to import your data. Here, as you can see, an example of our CSV option. So if we wanted to bring that in as a CSV, as you can see, we can come in, tell it what kind of delimiter that file is using, whether it's a tab or a comma or a pipe or different things. What's the text quotes? Is it a double quote? So you have these options, these configuration options that you can go through and tell it what kind of text file you're going to be importing. SQL Server databases are also part of this enhancement where you can actually import data now from your local SQL Server databases. You can import from cloud sources as well. So whether that's a blob container, an Azure file share, or an actual SQL Server database on Azure. So that's also been enhanced. So now you've got this ability to import data from cloud sources as well. Here we can see some examples of the blob container where I have an Excel file out there where I would tell it that I'm importing from that blob container and I'm importing an Excel file from that area. So that's just one example of how you could bring that in. Also, Azure file shares and SQL databases up on Azure as well are accessible. There's also this new concept of an import template. So now you can actually use these templates over and over again. So it's going to help you streamline reoccurring imports that you might have. You can reuse configuration and mapping details. So that's kind of what it stores for you. You can optionally handle a schema shift, basically adapt to differences between templates, mappings, and the actual import data. And you can build a template library, so group together similar types of data sources and data, and it's for obviously for frequently updated categories. So a nice little template library would be nice to choose from in case you import files over and over again, perhaps on a monthly or a weekly basis. Makes it a lot easier. Here we can see the data import where we're actually adding a template while we're importing a data, doing a data import. And as you can see, I can then click on add a template where I can go in and give it some configuration options and then also look at the mapping and how the mapping has been saved as part of the template. Below we see an owner for that template and when it was created, when it was last updated, etc. So for instance, if I were going to import this data on a monthly basis over and over again, since it's point of sale data that I might be getting from my retailers, then this would make it a lot easier. It would literally take no time at all for me to actually import that data with the template already in place. Notice how I can select, the data, delete category data before import. I could certainly deselect that if I wanted to. And then, bring in do an append as opposed to a refresh. So you can control your import options, and you can kind of drive that through the configuration options of the template. Here we can see we're actually using that template again. So we get a window here where we can actually say, well, this is the one that I want to use for this data import. And then obviously I would select that and go ahead and get that processed. And then the mapping, all that stuff would be taken care of for me automatically. So again, with the another option would be to do a Stratum Cloud Import API. So this is also new, where we can create and process imports with URL calls. And this would be compatible with Azure sources and also with local SQL Server databases. Optionally, you can use this with import templates as well. Other ways to work with an import API is to use it with an app, a website, or a service. Here we can see an Azure example where we can use it with an Azure Data Factory to import from Azure data pipeline. And we can run imports right away or schedule it based on the app's event criteria. So whatever app you might be using, then you could use the scheduler process within that particular app. So importing from an API is now doable using 7.6. There's also a new designation for a data steward. So we've got this new concept of a data steward. And you can actually designate that at the security administrator level. So clearly the user has to be a security administrator in order to be a data steward. And this will help control, who can import the data into a category and how. You can actually restrict some categories and features to stewards only. So it's almost like a security role for data importing. It pairs up with the category maintenance settings. And again, this is only reserved for security administrators. So you have to be a security administrator in order to be a data steward. Data stewards can import from any import sources configured for an environment. So that could be a local file, SQL Server database, or a cloud import. You can import into any category with the enhanced data architecture. Again, this is a new thing where we're actually able to designate enhanced data architecture types. So for certain categories we want to use for data import, then we can only import into those enhanced data architecture categories. The data import UI in Viewer, or you can use the Stratum Cloud Import API. Either way, you can import the data into Stratum either using the interface or the API. So that's what the stewards can do. So it's quite a more advanced than the regular users, where as you can see below, they can only do local Excel files, CSVs, text files, and then they can only use the data import interface. They don't have the option of using the cloud import API option. Okay, so the new data steward, and then you've got the regular users who can just do a data import. The administrative windows have been revised by workflow. They split some of the tasks into two different windows. So now you've got two different administrative menus. As you can see, one for system configuration, which is new. And then we also have the application options, which has been revised. And this just makes it easier, more efficient, adds more to security and convenience. Here we can see a snapshot of that system configuration window where we can see where some of that stuff is going to get stored, like the broadcast server and data import processing options, email notifications, the actual import sources. You might be wondering where those get stored. And as you can see for the blob container, the file share, the SQL Server or the Azure SQL databases, there's a connection string area where you can tell it where to source that data. and that all gets stored within the system configuration window. Here we can see that the application options, so we can see that that's been changed a little bit. You can still control a lot of the same stuff, like the view pane format, the default styles for the view text, and the default format for measure item captions. So all that stuff, which was available before, is now available to in a different menu called application options. Category maintenance has been revised. So that particular menu has been revised to encapsulate and manage the new import options. As you can see, data architecture and controlled by settings are now available. And as you can see, we can set this architecture up as a standard versus an enhanced. The standard is just what you have today. You're importing data from your ERP. So that's obviously a standard architecture. Whereas if you want to import data using the new data import features, then that architecture needs to be enhanced. Once you set that as an enhanced, then you can go further and tell it whether it's a data steward or is it a user controlled import. And that will drive what types of imports are available for that particular category, whether it's SQL, just an Excel file or a text file versus will it be a cloud import or something on the cloud. Another concept that's available with 7.6 is the ability to create a tabular database. By default, Stratum has normally created the uh, analysis services database as a multi-dimensional database. So now you can actually build it as a tabular database. You can generate a tabular model of the data, and then you can use that output in popular data visualization tools like Power BI. Actually showed an example of that previously, where I tapped into the tabular model, and it looks a little bit more native to analysis services, and still provides a way to get your data out of Stratum. There's probably more of a performance enhancement there as well, since you're not threading through directly through views. You're not using an API per se. You're just directly connecting to the tabular database for analysis services for Stratum. So that option is new, and I think some of the larger customers out there will probably benefit from that in terms of data volumes. Other miscellaneous changes, as you can see, there's some email notifications so that administrators are informed of data import processing. So that's been enhanced and added. And you can also specify an email from address for these notification emails. So you can dictate what the email from address will look like. So, wow, we covered a lot, and as you can see, with the combined value of both the Stratum Cloud Import and the Stratum Analyst Hub licenses. So, as you can see, there's a new license called Stratum Cloud Import, and we already knew that the Analyst Hub was needed for data importing as well. So you'll need two licenses if you want to get the full blown, you know, features, including cloud importing and more local source options for imports. Okay. Here's some upgrading path options. For 7.6 to upgrade, you have to be at least at version 7.2. A full process is not required when you're upgrading from 7.2 or greater. A full process is still required when you're upgrading from 7.2. So if you're on a prior version of 7.2, you'll have to go to 7.2 first, run a full process, and then go ahead and upgrade to 7.6. The 7.6 version features require Windows 2019 or 22. So your Stratum, uh, the, the server that your interface is running on needs to be Windows 2019 or 22 server. And then your SQL Server also needs to be 2019 or 2022. A lot of stuff, a lot of information. I know. If you have any questions, you can contact me. There's my email address or my phone number. Feel free to reach out. We will be recording this and it will appear on YouTube, our YouTube channel. So if you're not part of the YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe. All right, so let's take a quick look at some of these new concepts. So here we have the new version 7.6. All right. And you're not, again, it's not going to be this huge change for the users, which is a good thing. So they're not really going to notice a lot from the, initial get-go at least. When they log in, as you can see, it's going to be the same home page. The menus are all going to look the same on the left side. So it shouldn't shock your users to see that it's been upgraded to 7.6. Here on the right-hand side, we can see the hamburger menu there. And if I click on that, we can see that now we've got some new things here on our analyst tools, specifically the template repository for my data import jobs. And then for my manage things, here is my new menus for the application options versus the system configuration options. So let's take a quick look at some of the application option menu. Again, this is the menu that provides background coloring options, the Stratum view pane, what the views will look like in terms of the base color, alternating rows, all that stuff that makes it look formatted and pretty. The measure item caption options are down below, and then as you can see below there is the Excel file, the font and the font size defaults as well. If I go back in and go into my system configuration, there's where we're going to have our registration keys for the interface, the hubs, the cloud import. Our customer numbers are going to be there. Here we got this system generated email portion where we can see that our SMTP server designation, our email from address, that's new. And then we can also go in and tell it where these emails are going to go into whom and what they're going to say. And then we can do that for our broadcast server, our data imports, and then further down our our process options and cloud import locations. And I don't have any designated for this particular environment, but as you can see, we could go ahead and define where our Azure blob container is, our Azure file share, any SQL databases we have up on the cloud in Azure, and then local SQL Server database options here as well. So those are all your connection strings, and then the different designations for your cloud import locations. All right, so those have been reconfigured to include these new settings. All right. And then if we want to go into the data import, here's the new data import menu where I can go into analyst tools and I can do a data import. And it takes me to the same menu that we saw before in the previous version. Nothing too crazy or new there. But we can also now, and once we add in a new data import job, it's going to ask us what type of source of data for this, choose the source of data for this import. So this is new. And so here, if it's a local file, or if it's a file up on the file share or the blob container, I can then select those. Is it a SQL Server database or is it a Azure SQL database? So now I've got all these different options that I can choose. If I want to do a local file, it'll then prompt me to go out and pick my local file. And I can just import that in as needed. If I'm choosing something else up on the cloud, like something on the blob container, where you might have some Excel files or some text files that you want to import in, now those are available up on my blob source, blob container, and so on and so forth. Whether it's an Azure file share, and then it takes you to your file share, or is it a SQL Server database, whether it's local or up on the cloud, you'll be able to decide where that stuff is and how to get to it. And I don't think I have one of those defined actually. So if I were going to just import a job, go out and grab my sales plan data, I could go ahead and get that imported. You might want to close those files out first. and then go ahead and get those imported in. Here's my configuration. I need to tell it, where the stuff's going to go, like I did before. What type of file is it? And what does the dates look like for my dates within the file? And then, of course, once you answer all those questions, it'll then go in and import your data into the data import screen. And here we can see some new options. Here we can see that I can put in a description um, for my sales plan import. I can delete the category data before I import it, so I can turn that on if I want to. Um, I can add a template here and create a new template. However, those require a different file format. This is a time series format, so I won't be able to use a template for those types of formats. And then I do my mapping. I tell it, what dimension, and then what's the name of the dimension that I want to map this to. And then again, once you store this to a template, you won't have to redesignate some of this stuff again, right? So you map all that in, and then here with the data, for your measures, obviously you're going to tell it that that's going to be a plan amount, and so on and so forth. And boom, and then you just kick that job off, let it process. It'll finish processing, and you'll get the email telling you it's finished, and then you can go in and start using the data within your viewer environment. So once you import that data in, then you can go in and look at the uploaded plan. So here I'm just running a view, and here's my plan amount that I just uploaded from my Excel file. And now I can actually, analyze that against my sales, and I can start, once I start transacting within those time periods, then I can see how well I did against my forecast using, as you can see, the conditional formats, some of the features for using status indicators within Stratum to kind of highlight areas where I'm missing my forecast based on my plan. Looks like overall we're doing pretty good in terms of the plan, but the rolling 3 year, not so good. So interesting. And then obviously you can use Stratum to drill to look at that data down at the product level. Obviously that's going to be available as well. Whatever was in your file, right, is going to be your plan data is going to be associated to it here. Okay, so get your data, get that data imported into Stratum. You have no excuse now to upload and get data into Stratum using now not only Excel, but you can use text files, you can use CSVs, cloud sources, all kinds of different options are now available, so that you can uh, get all kinds of options of data stored into your Stratum environment. Okay. And then don't forget about if we go into the category menu here, we can see the new in standard enhanced architectures. And then here's where you would, I think I have one enhanced down here, of course, since I'm doing an import. Here we can see I've got an enhanced, and it's user instead of data steward. Of course, I could change that over to data steward if I wanted to. And so now that opens things up now for that category. So for my opportunities data, I might be using a CRM up in the cloud. So now that it's been designated as a data steward category, I can now pursue that as an import option. So that's 7.6. Again, we've got, notice on your homepage, you'll see a what's new document link here available for you. So if you click on that, you'll get the what's new document and all kinds of the details for the new 7.6 environment. So make sure you check that out, download it, check it out, and take a look at all the new features for 7.6.